All right, what's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we're back with another fight breakdown. This weekend on Showtime at 9 p.m. Eastern, we have IBF vacant IBF title on the line at 140 between Subriel Matias and Jeremias Ponce. All right. This is going to be for one of Josh Taylor's straps that he vacated. Okay, before we all know that he was the undisputed champion at 140, and 3 of his titles got separated, and he's now currently holding only one title, which he may be fighting Teofimo Lopez for pretty soon. All right, but we'll talk more about that in another video. But this is a pretty good fight here. In fact, this has the ingredients of being one of the best fights of this year. Now, we haven't gotten too many super fights this year, and I know that a lot of the boxing fans have been complaining about that. But we have been getting some really, really good fights so far this year. Of course, we had the Better BF fight with Anthony Yard. We had the Liam Wilson fight with Emmanuel Navarrete. We had the Havanesian fight with Louis Neary. And we had some other good fights this year. So we've been getting good quality fights consistently every week. It's just that none of the fights have been with major names, which is totally fine. So this fight is tomorrow night on Showtime, and I will be going live and doing live commentary for the fight. And it's a pretty good undercard as well. You have Elvis Rodriguez, one of the more recent, until he took a loss or whatever, one of the more recent prospects in the game. He's going to be returning to fight Joseph Dorno, and that's good. That's another fight that has potential to be fight of the night. So that's going to start off the night on this card. We'll also get the return of Jamal James. He's going to be on the undercard as well. All right, so I'll be here tomorrow night, maybe around 8:30 p.m., like a little bit before the actual card starts. And maybe I might even get on earlier, depending if YouTube, like the Showtime YouTube channel, is going to be showing the earlier fights. I might jump on a little bit earlier. But let's get into this breakdown here, because this was a pretty tough one for me. Only because you know what? I think the key thing with this fight here is a lot of us are familiar with Subriel Matias, right? We've been watching him. 30 years old, Puerto Rican fighter, 18 wins, 18 knockouts. He had one loss, right? But he avenged the loss against Petros Ananyan, and he beat him and stopped him in a rematch, right? In his most recent fight last year. So that's his only loss. And then you have, you got Ponce, who's undefeated. He's 30 wins with 20 knockouts, no losses, no draws or anything like that. Argentinian fighter, 26 years old, a few inches taller, you know, have a reach advantage. And the key thing with me here, and why I thought it was a little difficult in coming to a final decision on where I'm going to go with the winner of this fight. Obviously, Matias is the favorite. He's like a 4-1 favorite. I think that's a little too high. Even if you think he's going to win, I don't think he should have been really much more than a 2-1 favorite. The thing is with Ponce, he's a little bit more mysterious because he's looked great. But the key thing with him is he hasn't fought the level of opposition, in my opinion. You know, he has more professional fights, but I don't think he has more experience. You know, I think Matias has fought the better comp, you know, fighting undefeated fighters, like better, rugged, more rough guys. Whereas Ponce, I don't know how Ponce would have looked against some of the fighters that Matias have already won and beat and went through. All right. I think when I was going through Ponce and doing some film study, I think Louis Ritson was just clearly a step above some of the other fighters that he's faced. And he did stop Ritson, and it was a good fight. But I feel like Matias has been fighting guys, you know, when you look at Ananyan and Hawkins and even Dadashed, you know, rest in peace of Dadashed, who passed away from that fight. I just feel like he consistently fought better opposition leading up to this fight. So it was a lot easier for me to gauge like what he can really do at a level. Now, there's still a level above that neither one of them has faced. You know, there's still a lot of guys at 140. You know, you got the pro grades out there. You got Josh Taylor's. You got Teofimo Lopez's now, Jack Catterall's of the world. You got the Russell Juniors. You know, Gary Russell. You got all these fighters. That's at 140 that neither one of these guys have faced at the top tier level yet. But Matias has definitely fought the better ops up to this point. right? And even with the loss, the one loss he had, he was able to avenge the loss and get a stoppage. So I watched I wanted to wait until after the weigh-in. I watched the weigh-in earlier this afternoon. And, they both look good at the weigh-in. They both made weight. They both look phenomenal shape. They both, and you know what? And even when I look at the styles, not that they have similar styles, but their approach can be similar in some ways. They both like to really come forward. They both can be a high volume punchers. They both like to throw a combination. They both like to close the distance by using their jab, their lead hand. And, they both like to go to the body as well. I think they're both come forward fighters. And going into the fight tomorrow, I'm really curious and I'm really interested in seeing who's going to start first. At least with Matias, I've seen him make an adjustment from one fight that he lost to the next. And even though the Ananyan fight was similar and it was still like a war, a battle between two guys that threw a lot of punches and two really durable fighters, I saw the adjustments made in the rematch when Matias took, fought a little bit on his back foot a little bit, did counter a little bit more, didn't waste as many punches, he was more accurate with the shots, and he was more, I think he was sitting down on the punches a little harder, because if you notice in the first round of the rematch, he started to do damage as early as the first round, where in the first fight, he wasn't putting as much damage down on Ananyan. You know what I'm saying? Even when he was winning in the early, I think in the first half of the fight, he was winning the fight going into the second half. But he began to burn out because he wasted a lot of punches. Then he got hurt. Then they scored a knockdown where he was held up by the ropes. And, I think he just outworked in the second half, and Ananyan was able to pull off the victory in that fight. Whereas in a rematch, he took a different approach, sat down heavier, certain punches, didn't waste as many punches, and he was able to get a later stoppage in that rematch they had. All right. So going into this fight, I think the key thing here is who's going to start, who's going to lead, who's going to be coming forward. I think all of that really, really matters. I've seen Ponce have his way in all of the film study, all the fights that I've seen. He's had his way, but he's fought guys with like damn near losing records and stuff. And then in recent, double digits losses and stuff like that. And he was just clearly better than these fighters. Even the ones that went to a decision, he stopped some of these guys. He looks good. I really like what I've seen that Ponce can do, that I can feel that can really give Subriel Matias trouble, is the body work. The body work. I mean, I've seen him, especially even in the Ritson fight, I've seen him destroy guys, go into their bodies. In the Ritson fight, you could see the reddening all around his waist. And I don't think I've seen Matias fight a fighter that really just thoroughly kept going, digging to the body like the way Ponce I've seen him doing in other fights. But neither fighter is great at defense. They're not bad at defense, but they're not great. They're both very aggressive, offensive fighters. And Matias, what he lacks in defense, he makes up in offense, because he kind of smothers you. He's overwhelming you. He's coming straight out the gate, opening bell. He's coming right at you. He's throwing jabs to get in close, and he's throwing combinations. All right. And, he moves his head a little bit, fights out of a high guard. Obviously, he's going to be exposed in some areas. Ananyan did a good job by landing some shots around the guard and everything, going to his body a little bit, and using his jab as well constantly. I think one thing with Ponce, keep something out there, keep touching him. I know that Ananyan, even in the rematch that he lost, he kept touching him with something. You got to keep having, you can't let Matias get to your point where he's bullying you. You got to keep touching him with something. So keep changing the speed of that jab, all right? And sneak some right hands in between that. that got to be the key thing for Ponce. Keep jabbing, sneaking right hands in between, and dig to his body. You want to slow him down. We've seen him slow down before. We've seen him slow down before. We've seen him lose before. He's a beast. He's a bully, but he's not unbeatable. We've seen him getting beat before, and we've seen him hurt before. We've seen him outwork before. So what he's going to have to do is continuously throw something out there, mix that up with the jabs, you know, and then land a right hand. You have the longer arms. You are the taller fighter. Stay out of range. Don't let him be in your space the entire time. I feel like this is going to turn into a Matias fight anyway, where it's just going to be a rumble because both of those guys are built for that kind of fight. But if we're talking about strategy and Ponce, this fight here is leagues above anything he's been involved in. Use some of those physical advantages that you have going into the fight. Use that length, use that height, and keep the distance. You know what I'm saying? Do what you do from the outside. Matias is not the hardest person to hit. So you want to take advantage of that. You already know he's coming. You know he's coming. If you could fight, pick the spots to fight on your back foot and pick the spots to where you want to kind of jump in and ambush him. I think that's the best way to do it. You know what I'm saying? Pace yourself at a point where you don't want to outwork, you know, you don't want to punch yourself out. But you want to match his energy at the same time. You want to at least match him, but don't overdo it because you don't want to go the distance and burn out like the way he did in the past. And the same thing with Matias. You know, I think he learned from that first Ananian fight how to be a little bit more selective with his punches and not waste so many punches by just trying to overwhelm your opponent. You're throwing so many punches, you're not landing many of them, and you're punching yourself out. He didn't have the gas to continue at that pace in the second half of that fight against Ananian. He did much better in the rematch. But in this fight here, he has to be very cautious, you know. And not only that, you're fighting a guy that's proven to be a body puncher as well, a solid one. He's going to really go at your body. So that's another thing to be cautious. We know that Matias is very durable. You know, I mean, in order to fight that style, you got to be very durable, you know, because you're coming in so aggressively. You're coming straight forward. You're throwing a lot of punches. You're getting hit a lot. And, you know, you've been durable up to this point. How durable are you when you're fighting a guy that attacks the body as well as Ponce does? This is a very good matchup, man. And I think, again, not saying that Matias shouldn't be the favorite because I think he definitely should be. And a lot of my analysis is based on what he did, what he's done, who he stopped, and how they were higher level fighters, in my opinion. But when I look at the eye test, I do honestly feel that Ponce has the skills to rival Matias. I don't think he's as much of a better knockout artist. All right. I don't think he's a stronger puncher, but he could punch. He has solid power. He is durable. He seemed to be tough. He's bigger. You know, he looks like the naturally bigger guy. And he has the reach, you know. And I think he has a good chance. I think he has a fair chance. And I think his biggest strength is the body punching. You know, I think that can really change the direction of Matias's, you know, aggression. You know, so I think that's the key thing we have to worry about here. I think Matias should win the fight. I am picking him to win the fight. As far as betting, I put a little bit on Ponce to win straight up. I didn't do it by stoppage or anything like that, but I did put a little bit money on him just because of the odds and the amount of return. But I also hedged it with Matias also winning straight up because I'm not really sure. This could be one that can go the distance, and it could be one that he could get a stoppage. I just wasn't really sure. But I'm picking, as far as like without gambling, I think Matias is going to do it. Matias has been in there consistently. He's been in there tougher. And I think even with the loss that he had and him returning and winning the fight, he's been in there tougher. He's been at this level, and I think he'll be able to do it. But you never know, because even I could sit here and say that Ponce might have not fought the better fighters, but Ponce might elevate with the level of opposition he's facing. And this might be his best performance yet. Very good fight. Has a lot of potential to be fight of the year so far. I mean, we've been getting that almost every week so far, but this is another fight that could be, it's definitely going to be a war. Neither one of them are not going to really want to back down. And even if they do, it's not going to be long. Both of these guys like to come forward aggressively. They just do it a little differently, but both of them are going to be using a lot of jabs. There's going to be a lot of volume, you know, and it's going to be a good war. All right. I look forward to covering the fight. I'm not expecting many people to be out there on tomorrow, but if you have nothing to do tomorrow night, you want to listen to some boxing talk, come through. I'll definitely be live. The undercard is pretty solid too. Like I said, I'm not going to be able to cover the Tommy Fury, Jake Paul fight on Sunday, but I will be here for this real fight tomorrow night. So that's my pick. I got Matias winning this one. Not sure it's going to be by KO or not, but I have Matias winning. And let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you are new, please subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, share the video. Follow me on social media at Boxingwave 10. And I'll see y'all on the next one. Y'all have a good one. Peace.